Play so slowly that you feel like you're a fourth grader again. And if you're a fourth grader right now, just continue what you're doing. What's going on, internet? It's your boy TVK. And today, we gonna talk about practice.
I mean, listen, we talking about practice. Not a game. We talking about practice.
Allen Iverson is right. How you practice determines how you play. And in this video, I'm going to show you a method that I use to learn how to play much faster. This is actually a challenge that's very personal to me because it's something I struggled with for at least 10 years. During my undergraduate studies, I struggled with so many different things, but the biggest struggle that I had was playing really quick passages like the development of the waltz and viola concerto up to tempo and accurately and cleanly. It got so bad on multiple occasions during my undergraduate studies, I considered quitting. I talked to Robert McDuffie. I said, hey, I don't think I'm cut out for this. I'm having memory slips. I can't play fast. All of my double stops are out of tune. I can't do this. And at the time, all of my colleagues, violinists, cellists, they were playing Tchaikovsky concerti, they were playing Sibelius, they were playing Sarasate, all these incredibly virtuosic music that I couldn't play. So I'm making this video to help you not struggle as much as I did. So let's go back in time. Back when I was in my junior year in my undergraduate studies at the Robert McDuffie Center for Strings, I had a teacher named Becca Albers, and she taught me this concept of quarter pressure. Every time you play your instrument, whether it's putting your fingers down or moving your arm, you're expending energy. And a lot of times, the more energy you're expending, it also takes more time to execute that motion. So the idea is to try to refine your technique so you get to a point where you get maximum effect for minimal effort. And that's the basis of this idea of quarter pressure. The more force you exert with your left hand, the slower you're going to be able to play because it takes time and energy to press down, and then it takes time and energy to release. So if you want to play passages much more quickly and nimbly with your left hand, you have to learn how to have a lighter left hand when you put pressure into the strings. So here's what you do. Take your section that you want to learn and that you want to get better at, and then pick 2 bars. All right, pick 2 bars. The first 2 bars, whichever 2 bars you're having the most trouble with. And then you want to set a metronome to about 50% of what your performance tempo would be. So I'm going to set my metronome to 40 because I'm playing the end of the Violin Elegy. Now, as you're playing these 2 bars slowly with a metronome, this is a very important step. You want to pay attention to the amount of weight you're putting into the string to stop it, to actually make the tone sound. Then go back again and play it just as slowly, but use half of that weight that you used before. Be sure to keep your fingers curled and your left hand nice and relaxed. Relaxation is everything, especially when you're playing slowly. Remember, how you practice is how you play.
We talking about practice.
So if you practice slowly with tension, you're gonna play quickly with tension. Relax, loosen everything, loosen your back. After you've played those 2 measures very slowly, once again with half pressure, I want you to go back to the beginning of those 2 measures again and then release half more pressure. At this point, you should be barely touching the strings. Ooh, doesn't that sound beautiful? The sound at this point should be pretty much screeching, so you're gonna wanna probably apologize to all of your neighbors or your roommates, wear earplugs, do whatever you gotta do to get through it. But this is very important. Now you're gonna wanna go ahead and set a timer for 25 minutes and then play your entire section at this very slow tempo with this quarter pressure that leads you to only touch the strings. Open strings are fine, but barely touch the strings and endure this screeching sound. This is very, very, very important, and I'm not trolling you. you have to understand that the sound isn't important right now. The action with your left hand is paramount. We are isolating the looseness in your left hand. Now, as you repeat the section, you want to crank up the metronome 4 or 5 clicks with each repetition, barring the fact that you don't mess up. If you don't mess up, you can move the metronome up a little bit. And ideally, if you're really a stickler about practice and you want to eliminate your issues and eliminate your mistakes, you're going to want to maybe do it 3 times at each metronome marking without mistakes. Because if you practice mistakes, you're gonna have those mistakes in your performance, and you don't want mistakes in your performance if you can help it, right? So your 25 minutes are over. Take a 5-minute break, write some observations in your practice journal or on a sheet of paper, and really note, like, how does this feel? How does this motion between notes feel? Does it feel like you're using less effort? Does it feel like you're saving a lot more energy? These are important things to document. Maybe what are some pitfalls that you're falling into? What are some things that aren't working? And maybe activate your scientific brain and maybe create a hypothesis as to how you can fix it. And then return, set another timer for 25 minutes and apply those observations and maybe those hypotheses and see if you can fix some of those problems. You want to continue this process of 25 minutes of practice to 5 minutes of rest and observation over and over until you're about 80 to 90% up to tempo. Now finally, once you've gotten close to tempo, pull long tones on any of your strings with each of the fingers, and start off with quarter pressure as you're pulling the bow, and then slowly add more weight until you hear the first sound of a clear tone. That tone is the optimal amount of weight you want to be putting into your string. Any more is wasted energy, and when you are trying to build yourself up to be able to play long recitals that go on for an hour or an hour and a half or maybe 2 hours, saving energy and creating a better economy of motion is paramount to that endeavor. So as you're going through each of these fingers, I want you to really kind of pay attention. Aren't you noticing that you're keeping your fingers more curved and they're closer to the string as well? Well, that's because when you press and put a lot of weight into the fingerboard, you also have to lift your fingers up to apply the same pressure so you can have that action. It's like Newton's third law. Every action has an equal and positive reaction. So if you're applying less action, if you're applying less weight to stop the string, you don't need to lift your fingers as high. You can actually just lift them up barely above the string. And so as you're focusing on this quarter pressure, you're gonna find a lot of other things fixing themselves as well. You're hitting 2 birds, 3 birds, 7 birds with 1 stone. It's crazy. With this newfound optimal weight to stop the string, now set your metronome back to that slow tempo and work up with this new weight. And you'll find that the passage will become much easier and you'll have a lot more flexibility in your fingers. All in all, you gotta sometimes go to the extremes to find the happy middle ground. And once you find the happy middle ground, that's where the magic happens. Anyway, thank you so much for watching, guys. I really appreciate you. If you have more practice questions, feel free to DM me at ThatViolaKid on Instagram, at me on Twitter. Also check out my podcast, Faking Notes Podcast, with my boy Trevor Bumgarner. We talk about all things entrepreneurial when it comes to creating your own unique career as a musician. And we cover many things that you don't learn in school, which I think there are many. In addition to that, we tell goofy anecdotes about our lives as entrepreneurial musicians, and we interview really interesting guests that give so many gems on how we can navigate our space as not just musicians, but creatives. Cop it anywhere that you cop your podcast. Stitcher, Apple, Spotify, it's up. And with that, hope you have a great day, and don't forget to play, homie, play.